Hello, Sat Gaming here. Welcome to part 3 of my How to Run Curse of Strahd series. Links to the first 2 videos about now. And if you've already seen those videos and you're digging this series, please like, subscribe, comment, anything. Introductions aside, we are going to dive right into the topic of this video, which is going to be Tser Pool, what to do if your party avoids Tser Pool, and Bonegrinder. Beginning with Tser Pool, the most important thing that probably happens in Tser Pool is Madame Eva and the tarokka reading. Now, you want to kind of read your group a little and figure out if this is going to be the type of group that would appreciate a completely random reading or if it's going to be something that you might want to script and plan ahead of time. For the first option, you just simply follow the instructions given to you by the book or just do it whatever way you want to. But if you are interested in scripting it or rigging it in some way, there are plenty of ways to do this. The simplest way to rig it is to just tell them that the card that they draw results in whatever you want them to get. So, for example, if you wanted Donovich to be their ally, whatever ally card they draw, you just say, that means it's Donovich, and read whatever flavor text that entails. If you want a more authentic experience, you could always learn a bit of sleight of hand or stack the deck in some way to where whatever convoluted method you use to shuffle the cards results in you drawing the cards you want. I personally just told them the reading meant what I wanted it to mean because I had a lot of players that hadn't run through the module and were pretty new to D&D in general, so I was able to get away with it. The other semi-important thing that happens at Tser Pool is that the Vistani Elder talks about the Mage's Revolt. Bring this up if you like the Mad Mage subplot, or if you had Donovich mention it earlier and want to further elaborate on it. Lastly, I kinda had a cool encounter planned where a were-raven was gonna fly over the camp, and then some Vistani were going to talk about hunting it down because Vistani think that ravens are bad luck, and I thought it would be a cool way to kind of put that into the module, but alas, my players decided to avoid Tser Pool entirely. Which segues into the next section very nicely. So what are your options if your players decide to avoid Tser Pool? What I did in my particular case was I had Esmeralda show up, which I don't think is the right solution every time, but for me in particular, I wanted my players to visit Argynvost Holt sometime during the campaign, and so in order to achieve that, I need to get them to take the reading fairly soon, and I just went ahead and did it before Vallaki, and I had Esmeralda stay with them until Vallaki, and this also helped them survive Bonegrinder, which, if you haven't heard anything about, can be a little tough to survive for some parties. Whenever the PCs were approaching Vallaki, Esmeralda made it clear that in Vallaki, Vistani totally aren't allowed, so that was a good excuse for her to part with them and look for Van Richten, which she did tell them about, but she didn't know about his Guy's Rictavio, so it doesn't really spoil Rictavio in Vallaki, if that makes sense. So general strategy with that is if you want the reading to point them to a certain location, and that location is fairly soon or fairly close to Vallaki, you probably should have Esmeralda turn up and give them the reading before Vallaki, but in any case, if you're having it completely randomized or you just don't care, then go ahead and just let them skip Tser Pool. It's whatever. They don't need the reading for the first part of the campaign. Though you probably do want them to take the reading at some point, and Esmeralda can facilitate that since she's capable of giving the reading. Also, if they skip Tser Pool, do the reading by yourself, just so there's default locations for the items in case they never do get the reading. In fact, you might just want to do that before you start the campaign. Last but not least, Bonegrinder. Oh, Bonegrinder. They made this campaign with a certain amount of inherent brutality, and if your players are not careful, this encounter is going to eat them alive if you run it how it is out of the book. Now, if you have the kind of group that finds that thing fun, more power to you, but for other kinds of groups and other kinds of people, or maybe even newer players, you might want to consider rebalancing this counter a touch. And I did that, and even when I did do that, I found that the fight drug on a lot, and I wish I did a lot more flavor type things associated with it, so keep that in mind if you're going to run this. Those hags are massive bags of HP, and if you don't have something cinematic or slightly interesting happening on the battlefield, it's going to become a game of stand there smack, stand there smack. Other things important of note are that, in theory, the hags shouldn't start out aggroed at the PCs, but should instead be peaceful until the PCs decide to attack them or otherwise do bad things to them. I had there be one hag on the ground floor, and when fighting broke out, I had the second hag come in with invisibility and have a attack at advantage at one of them, and that was a really cool moment, so consider doing that. Another thing of note is that specifically the Night Hag has the ability to slip into the ethereal plane, meaning that the PCs should not be able to kill it right now, and it should slip away, and at some point later in the campaign should start denying them long rests. Maybe when they're approaching Babala's Saga. Also, I like really selling the fact that this is like a kitchen in a windmill basically, so there's flour sacks everywhere, the chickens are all cooped up in here. Kinda unsanitary. I really like that description I gave of it. But other than that, I think that's most of the important bits covered. This has been Sat Gaming. If you have any questions that I didn't mention in the video, please leave a comment. I think it improves my content greatly, and have a good one.